do our roll call. Well, it's 1:30 and we do have a quorum, I would say. How do you all feel if we just get started here and see if the other two commissioners can catch up? I'm going to start with a roll call because it says so on the agenda. And I have to look at the page just to make sure I get everybody's name right. I know everybody, but when it's under pressure, I might screw it up. All right, so David Faber.
Sorry, here. Had unmute.
Sorry, we don't normally do this, and I'm here. I'm Ben Thomas. Greg Brotherton.
Present and accounted for.
All right. Kate Dean, I don't see unless. And Commissioner Heidi Eisenhower I didn't see her either yet. Unless my screen is not showing everybody. I think, there's Heidi. Heidi, we're doing roll call. Heidi's present. John Nowak.
Present.
Vivian Cool.
Present.
And then Rick Burton, I don't see. All right.
Do you want me to say I'm present? I'm present. Sorry.
You can say that, sure.
I had my 4-second commute from my other Zoom meeting, so didn't leave myself enough time. Sorry.
Excellent. All right. Well, as everybody's probably noticed, we have timestamps on each one of these items, which is kind of handy. So we can kind of cruise through, I think, the meeting. If I am dragging by not moving something along, I don't mind if anybody chimes in and reminds me. It's my first time hosting this meeting, so please pitch in if you feel like it needs it. So the first item of business is public comment, and right at the top of that, I just want to ask the group's opinion here, and I don't know what our bylaws might say, but we have recent public comment that came in after the deadline, and we have an existing public comment, all by the same person. It's my inclination, because I doubt everybody's had a chance to read all those new ones coming in, that we hold those to the next meeting. But does anybody disagree with that, or does that violate our bylaws? I don't know.
I mean, I think responding to the initial one from Michelle, I didn't see a subsequent one from Michelle Gransgard. I think, but I would love to talk a little bit about the actual proposal that was in that public comment. That is, I mean, I spent some time with Clallam's bus locator function, and it does seem like a really critical function. I know we've struggled with, so I'm wondering if staff has looked into that particular solution, I guess, or if what the staff.
Yeah, and just so everybody we're on the same page. There was 5 more comments by the same person came in email form, and we just got it today from Kelly. So, but they came in after the deadline. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes, after the packet was already finalized and published. And there's 4 more from Michelle, and then there's one from Margaret Lee.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought it was all from Michelle. Okay. Is there anything in our bylaws that dictates what we should do here?
Oh, it's fine to push them to next time. I mean, we
Okay.
haven't written, so we can't respond to them. All right.
There's a lot of detail in there, and they might. I'm worried they'll provoke some natural defensiveness, because they're coming right at some folks here. So give us time to process through that and actually answer those questions better, I think would be best. So let's address the one that we have, and we don't read them in, do we? It's in the packet already. So
Right. If it's in the packet, we don't read it in. I do believe that Kelly has one that the submitter had requested that we read in, but we can start with the one that was submitted and included in the packet if you like.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So Jefferson Transit, Sarah has been working hard on a new alert system, and that went live in March. And we're hoping that alert system will be a bit easier for the public to read and be aware of situations. There are times, though, that we do not know. that we need to cancel a route until right before we need to cancel a route. And that can be due to a lot of things that are out of our control, whether that be a bridge opening, a traffic accident, just a whole host of reasons why we may not be able to complete that run or that route. So there are times when it's a last minute notification. We try really hard not to do that regularly, but there are times that that does happen. As far as the where's my bus, this is something that's been brought up by the board and by TAG. And Jefferson Transit staff is working on that. We have talked about needing to have a logical progression to get to the point where we would have a platform that would allow us to even have that kind of technology. And so we are working towards that. We're in the midst of developing a new website with Civic Plus. We're excited about that. But there is a progression that needs to happen before we can get or debut that type of technology. We have a lot on our plate this year, and that's not stopping us from doing the legwork that we need to do right now, which is start having conversations with agencies that are successfully running this technology. So the person who submitted the comment did make reference to Clallam Transit. Jefferson Transit has a great relationship with Clallam Transit, and this is something we've talked about, is understanding how they got their system up and running. So I do hear that the public would like this. This is a task on our work plan. It's something that we're working on. We're carving out time to make sure that we can advance this so that next year it is in our budget so that we can purchase the technology needed. And I would like it to happen faster, but we're slowly and methodically working our way to get to that point where we can support that kind of technology. We cannot support that technology right now. Our website will not allow us to do that.
Nicole, what kind of technology are we talking here?
Well, our website, it's plugging right along, but it's got a lot of issues. So being able to have an app or have a platform that will even allow us to have that kind of dynamic information, the real-time information, it's just not possible right now with the current website. So again, we're working on creating a website that will allow us to have some of that more fluid information on it instead of strictly just PDFs, that kind of thing.
And I'm surprised at how low cost it was, according to her. Have you looked into prices about that?
Again, that's something that we're working on. I will say that there's a lot more to it. I think this is a simplified response. I think it's really kind of boiling it down to, well, it's this cost, so it can't be that hard. And I just really do want to assure the board that it's something that we're working on, along with the other projects that we have slated for this year, and along with keeping service on the road and doing all of the things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis, plus our projects. So it's not falling on deaf ears. We're working on it, and I feel confident that the end, as we get closer to the end of the year and into next year, that we'll be able to really have done our research and procure a good solution for the agency.
Okay, Greg's got his hand up there.
Greg? Yeah, that all sounds great, Nicole. I guess it feels like an important part of the website update. I'm sorry I was out of town for the first committee meeting, but I do feel like putting this into the talk, it would be horrible to get through Civic Plus and say, oh, well, at the end of all that, it doesn't plug in with the most affordable, effective GPS locator, and yeah, so I just feel like it's the same scope of work, or it should be. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know everybody in our on the board has weighed in at some point or other, desiring this, of course, and I'm just reflecting what the riders would like. John?
Nicole, if you were to make your best guess, and I realize it would be, there's going to be a range of dates there, but could you give us kind of a target for when you think this might be able to go live?
We would need to budget for it. It's that project wasn't included in this year's budget, so we would need to budget for that type of technology. So I'm thinking probably first or second quarter of 2025.
Yeah. Miranda?
I just wanted to kind of follow up on the technology part that we're looking at for Where's My Bus. So, one of the challenges that we had with Route Match was our geographic location for GPS connection. So, while looking at some of these simpler programs, there's still that hurdle that we will need to get past and see if we can find technology that's improved to the point where we can overcome some of the issues that we saw with the Cradlepoint technology or the tablet technology that we had with Route Match. So I don't want it to feel like it's a plug and play situation. Just commenting on the challenges that I went through with the current system that we had, and I know that the drivers and the dispatchers worked really hard trying to troubleshoot it. So I think that there's a couple different layers of things that we are looking at internally on how we can address the Where's My Bus issue. But it is something that, I think in the long run, this is something that transit really wants to provide. And it's exciting. So I think I just wanted to point out that there are still other challenges that we are facing when we consider Where's My Bus.
Okay, anybody else want to chime in on this? We're going to be, this is a bigger topic. Obviously, you can keep going off this email. There's a few other points that were brought up. And I just want to say that, I guess, to Michelle and to Margaret Lee, if you're listening, that, we are going to go through the other emails that came in and the other public comment that come in, and we're going to put them in the next packet. We'll address them appropriately. They may lead to new agenda items, as things go. So thank you for the input. Can we move on now? Everybody all right? Great.
I think we need to open it up for public comment. I think we
Yeah, excuse me. The basics here. Yeah, can we open up the public comment? Anybody online and have their hands up? I'm looking at my Zoom here.
Usually, we just let people know who are online that they can use the raise hand button at the bottom of their Zoom screen. And if they're a caller, I see one caller, I think they press *9 on their phone. Is that correct? I'm looking at Greg. Is that the right *9 on your phone? And then *6 to lower your hand. So if there's someone on the phone who'd like to make a public comment at this time, you can press *9. No.
And nobody's got their hands up. Oh, there is.
Oh.
Wait, we got one. We got somebody *9 here. So Kelly, or do I click on them? Go ahead if you're able to. It looks like you're muted on your end.
And it's *6 to unmute.
*6 to unmute. There we go. Go ahead.
Hello. This is Margaret Lee.
Hi, Margaret.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I read the directions on how to make a comment to the board, and I thought I followed the directions carefully. Unfortunately, I don't see well, so I might have missed something. And it's perfectly okay if you want to save my comment till the next meeting. But I think it needs to be clarified how to get comments to you that would be dealt with at like a comment, a public comment. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you. I'm going to say goodbye.
Thank you, Margaret. On that note, is there anything, has anybody seen I've not gone through that process to see how our public comments work from the public side. So is there anything we could improve there? Anything worth mentioning?
I think we can go through and look. Staff can go through and look and make sure that it's clear how to provide public comment.
Pretend like you don't already work there, David.
Yeah, the language says all meetings are open to the public and public comment is welcome at these meetings. Public comment can be emailed to jtaclerk@jeffersontransit.com. Written public comment received by 11:59 p.m. the day before the meeting will be placed in the board packet.
Well, Kelly, when was this
So yeah, I
received?
need to update that because if it comes in at 11:59, then the packet's already been published. So, and I'm not sure exactly if it comes in after the packet's been published, how we should handle it. If we just email it to you guys, or if it should be read at the meeting.
It's good. It's a lot of reading here, so.
Previously, we used to have it, if it came in after they went out, we would send them to the board, but then also have them publish in the minutes, I believe, for the next meeting, so they're there. But yeah, we were reading them for a while, but it took a while.
Yeah, I think we have a total of 6 here. So that would be what we're doing then now, right? We receive them, each board member has received them, they're able to read them on their own time, and then we'll address them at the next meeting. Is that everybody cool on that still? I want to get this right. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think we should change on the website when the letters are due by, so that we're kind of not in this conundrum. It would seem like Kelly, whatever time you need to be able to get it into the packet, if we just put that date, and then if not, it would go over to the next meeting. That
could almost make it 11 a.m. it seems like, and then that would be essentially noon the day before, and you have plenty of time. I'm sure it's more thought than that needs to go into it, but.
Okay, I'll update the website so that it's more clear of making it in the packet versus it will be emailed to the board and put in the following meetings packet.
Okay, and not seeing any more hands up online, we'll move on to the next item. New agenda items, there are none, so we'll go to the finance reports.
Well, I would actually like to add an agenda item for discussion.
That's right. I should be asking for new agenda items on that. Gotcha.
So agenda item H, I would like to discuss the Olympic Discovery Trail and easements on Jefferson Transit property, both 63 Four Corners and 111 Four Corners.
Okay, note here. You might have to remind me of the title of that when we get there after G. Okay, so we'll move on to the finance reports. Miranda, it looks like you have 2 for us.
Okay, so we have February and March 2024 financial reports. I usually include the previous month, but we're just going to go over the most recent expense packet for March because it has the updated financials for the year. So for the month of, we'll start with sales tax revenue. For the month of December of 2023, sales tax increased 10% compared to December of 2022. We're talking about December because that's, we actually received December's in February. For the month of January 2024, which we received in March, sales tax had decreased 1% compared to the prior year of January 2023. For operating revenue, as of January 2024, Jefferson Transit doesn't collect fare on any services. So operating revenue is 0. Our expense reports for March, cumulatively, we are 4.4% under budget. For labor, we're about 1.5% under budget. However, I will note that we're continuing to train and recruit for operators. So you will see the line items for operators overtime, operator salaries, wages for dial-a-ride overtime, and other overtime, which is our dispatch, because we're also training in dispatch. Those individual line items are over budget, with dial-a-ride overtime being the most significant over budget at 32%. For benefits, we are 4.3% under budget. Services and user fees, we are 14% under budget. Materials and supplies consumed, 9% under budget. Our utilities are almost 2%, but 1.8% under budget. For casualty and liability costs, we are right on budget. Taxes, we're about 17.5% under budget. Our miscellaneous expenses were about 11.5% under budget. Our leases and rentals were 7.5% under budget. And for our capital activity in March, we had our facilities maintenance building, our third maintenance bay, our administrative building, our HVAC system repair, our climate action plan, work on the new website, and the purchase of our new Olympic Connection bus. Does the board have questions on the financial reports for February and March?
Greg, did you put your hand up or?
I mean, I could do my agog face at our cash balance that I do every meeting, but
All right. Anybody else? Comments or questions? I don't see anybody with their hand up in the public, but if anybody wants to, you still can. Make some public comment.
Can we hire a consultant to help with where's my bus? Sorry, with some of that money.
Well, the October, we'll start working on the 2025 budget.
Okay, so now we're on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to move to David?
I'll move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any commentary? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passing the consent agenda.
Aye.
I think I saw everybody. Anyone against? Anyone no? All right. And I think last time I was doing this, I wasn't voting myself, so I am voting also in favor. Sorry. So that Kelly has a proper record there. All right, that's moved, and we're starting to catch up with our time here. Unfinished business is, we finished it all, looks like, from last time. So now we're on to new business. So peak sustainability, climate action plan presentation. Who's got this? I imagine
Move them
Nicole.
over as panelists right now.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Oh, I saw him on my chart.
So we are so excited to be working with Peak Sustainability on our climate action plan.
Yeah, I
won't say too much. They're both here, Sarah Parker and Kat Class. So I'll let them take it away. But we're just really excited about the progress we're making on the climate action plan. Our survey has debuted, and we're just happy that they're here to give the board an update on the great work that we've been doing so far this year.
Great, thank you, Nicole. And I'm going to share my screen. Nicole, can you let me know, do you just see the main slide or do you see the notes as well?
I see the main slide.
Okay, great. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Parker, and as Nicole mentioned, I'm here from Peak Sustainability Group. Thanks for having Kat Class, my coworker who's also here today. And I were excited to give you an overview of the Climate Action Plan process and an update of our work to date and the work to come in the next several months. So Peak is a Bellingham-based company with a mission to catalyze breakthrough solutions for a sustainable and resilient future. We focus on facilitation, community engagement, and climate and sustainability planning projects, and work all throughout Washington, but are mostly focused on the western part of the state. We are leading this effort, and along with 2 other firms. So Shoe Design, also based out of Bellingham, is focused on all things design. So they'll make sure that the final climate action plan has a nice professional and intriguing layout. And Sticking Strategies, who is focused on transportation decarbonization. So for today, we're going to provide an overview of the CAP development process, a summary of our findings thus far, and then we'll debut our draft vision and guiding principles and welcome any feedback on that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Kat.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So we'll be summarizing about 3.5 months of work in hopefully 10 to 15 minutes. I'll pause at the end of each section for any questions, but just to get started, the focus of the climate action plan we've identified so far as reducing Jefferson Transit's operational emissions, contributing to reducing community-wide transportation emissions, and also building community resilience and transit system resilience to the impacts of climate change. And then to give you a brief overview of the project so far and kind of where we're at. So we are working on a draft. We have on the upper part of the slide, there is our written deliverables, and then the bottom half is the public engagement timeline. So we have, for public engagement, are working on a draft engagement plan, just received some feedback from JTA staff on that, and we'll have that finalized by the middle of this month. Going up to the deliverable upper half of the timeline, we've been working on a greenhouse gas inventory for JTA's operational emissions, a climate impact summary about the predicted impacts of climate change, and a summary of climate efforts and opportunities, which is a synthesis of interviews done with JTA staff and community leaders, as well as a review of relevant JTA plans and regional plans that have to do with climate action. So all 3 of those deliverables can kind of be thought of as the background research phase, and those will be completed by the end of this month. Nicole also mentioned, bumping back down to the public engagement part of the timeline, that we have a community survey now open, and that will be open through June 7th. The point of that is that it's really the first opportunity for the public to be able to provide feedback and input and let us know about their priorities for the climate action plan. So we're looking forward to getting their thoughts there. The next piece on public engagement will be focus groups and interviews from July to September of this year. And the focus groups will allow us to have facilitated discussion on specific topics that are related to some of these draft climate action plan goals that we have, like fleet electrification and grid resilience, increased ridership, ways that JTA can support community resilience. Those are just a few examples. We haven't finalized the focus groups topics yet. And the other half of that is what we're calling key informant interviews. So those will be one-on-one interviews with key stakeholders, which might include neighboring transit agencies, local businesses or employers, different community groups, to allow us to have some very targeted topic-specific discussions that will help inform the climate action plan. Jumping back up in terms of deliverables, the goals, strategies, and actions are kind of the meat of the climate action plan. So we'll have a short-term, we'll identify short-term priorities by mid-September. So those can be included in the 2025 budget process. And we will get a draft of the goal, strategies, and actions completed by mid-October and finalized in early November. Around that same time, we'll also be hosting some open houses. So we're planning to do one virtual and one in person in early October, and then finalizing the climate action plan in mid-December. And as it says at the bottom there, we're planning to do project updates for yourselves, the board, the Transit Advisory Group, and the Climate Action Committee throughout the process to keep folks informed of our progress there. Moving on to a summary of the greenhouse gas emissions inventory that we conducted. So the categories that were included in this are on the left-hand side of that table there. We have mobile fuels for revenue fleet vehicles was the far and away the largest percentage. That was 89% of the emissions that we included in the inventory. And so that includes gasoline, diesel, and biodiesel for those revenue fleet vehicles. Employee commutes came in at about 9% of the total emissions. And then mobile fuels for non-revenue fleet vehicles was about just under 2.5% of emissions. Electricity use is a really small category, as JPUD sources electricity from BPA, which their portfolio is largely hydropower and nuclear. So that has a much lower emissions factor compared to some of the other suppliers there. And then refrigerants did not contribute to the total because this is more of a technicality, but the approach that we used assumed that all refrigerant purchases represent the amount of refrigerant leakage. So in 2022, there were no refrigerant purchases. So that just means that we did not account for refrigerants there. That was a decision that we made given JTA's very limited purchases. Staff informed us that the purchases happened in 2018 and then again in 2023, and also to increase the ease of conducting future inventories. So that's why that one shows up as 0%. And then just for some context about what this number looks like, or what about 1,000 metric tons of CO2 is relative to community emissions. So the 2022 JTA emissions are equivalent to about 0.5% of countywide transportation emissions. And the countywide transportation emissions number came from the 2018 Jefferson County greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So what we would really like to emphasize on this point is that there's a pretty significant opportunity with service changes or other decisions that JTA can make, an opportunity to shift those to significantly cut the countywide transportation emissions without a corresponding increase in JTA emissions, just increased efficiency there. Sarah, thank you. And then the next two slides will be just a brief overview of some of the climate hazards that we looked at for the climate impact summary. So the first one that we examined was extreme heat. And in short, there will be an increase in, or it's predicted that there will be an increase in the average summer high temperatures, as well as like daytime and nighttime heat stress. And that's especially relevant considering the population of Jefferson County, where the average age is 60 to 61 years, because those older folks are more susceptible to heat-related illness. On the topic of wildfire and smoke, it's expected that there will be not only more days of high fire danger, but kind of zooming out and thinking about the smoke and the air pollution, it's predicted that that could increase from wildfires in Washington State or just in the Pacific Northwest region in general, Oregon, British Columbia, etc. Our third climate hazard that we looked at was extreme precipitation and river flooding. So those extreme precipitation events or really heavy rainstorms, the atmospheric rivers, are expected to become more frequent and more intense, which really contributes to those instances of surface flooding and river flooding. And wanted to note that any like instability associated with the soil saturation that happens with those atmospheric rivers can lead to landslides and damage transportation infrastructure as well. I think if I'm remembering correctly, in the 2021 storms there were sections of Highway 101 closed for landslides And the fourth climate hazard that we looked at was temporary coastal flooding and coastal inundation. So expecting more frequent and more intense temporary coastal flooding coming from things like extreme high tides and storm surge and wave runup. And then when we add average sea level into the mix as well, sea level is expected to rise in Jefferson County, which pushes the reach of that temporary coastal flooding inward. So that was just an overview of the climate hazards we looked at for the climate impact summary. And then I'll pass it back to Sarah now for, actually, Sarah, should we take questions on greenhouse gas inventory?
Let's hold on questions just to make
Okay.
sure we get through all of our slides. If you do have questions about the emissions inventory, the climate hazards, or just the overall process, please just hold them for now. And in just a minute, we'll get to those questions. But
Great, thanks.
before we do, I want to debut our vision and guiding our draft vision and guiding principles for the climate action plan. So the vision is essentially the overall picture of where JTA hopes to be in the future, say 10 years, given climate change and what climate change will look like in the future. The guiding principles are the values that should be reflected throughout the entire climate action plan. So we're working on developing these two pieces up front so that they can guide the rest of the development of this plan. Kat and I put together draft versions of each based on a great discussion that we had with our JTA project team last month. And so the project team consists mostly of JTA staff and some community leaders who are very knowledgeable in the climate action world in Jefferson County. I will note that we actually haven't brought these drafts back to the project team yet. And I know we have quite a few project team members on the call right now. So hopefully you feel like these are a reflection of our conversation last month. We'll be bringing these back to that group next week to refine them further. But since we're presenting to you all, we wanted to go ahead and introduce the vision and guiding principles and see if you have any feedback or adjustments that you'd like to make to those at this point. So rather than me reading the vision and the guiding principles to you, I am going to put a timer on my phone and just give you a minute or so to review the vision and then a couple minutes to review the guiding principles. And then I'll ask for any feedback that you have. So my timer is starting now. Go ahead and read through that vision and start thinking about any feedback that you might have or anything that you'd like to be reflected in the vision that's not there yet. Okay, that was a bit less than a minute, but let's open the floor up to any feedback on the vision. And Kat, can you call on folks if they have their hands up?
I don't know.
Is there
Vivian,
anything-
was your, just out of curiosity, Vivian, yours was about something else, right? Your question. Because your hand was up before. So it's...
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Great. Is it okay with you if we answer that question in just a minute?
Yeah, I'll just keep my hand up so you don't
Great.
forget.
That sounds good. Do you want me to call on people or do you
Oh
got
yeah,
okay?
that would be great.
Okay. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, thanks for your work on this, Sarah and Kat and the team. And I guess looking at this vision, and I don't know if conversations circle around this, but it seems like we are going to have to make more of an effort to get people out of single occupancy vehicles into, transit, and more action on that I guess that side of this seems like it belongs here if we're trying to create something that replaces journeys in single occupancy vehicles. It's a more active vision, but that would be a suggestion, I guess.
Great. Thanks for that.
And David?
Yeah, exactly my thinking too, Greg. So maybe an option to bulk that concept up a little bit would be in the very last clause, adding the words "and convenient" after natural, between natural and choice.
Great.
Anybody else have some commentary on this?
I was just gonna hear to what Greg said. So, I mean, I was just trying to figure out how to lead with getting more people on the bus. So however we can do that, that's gonna be the biggest potential reduction.
Great. We can work on that. Okay.
I
And
guess
then
I would weigh in myself here that the less this is a general principle that I believe in, but the less we're specifically telling people how to do things, the better. The more, I think the way this is written is pretty good in terms of it's leading people towards something.
great. Thank you. So our next slide is the guiding principles, although I know we are running short on time for our presentation. So Ben, do you have suggestions? Should we spend some time talking through the guiding principles, or is there another way that we could get feedback on those?
How many more pages do we have?
Well, it's these 9 guiding principles. It just might take folks a minute to read through. And we want to make sure we can answer at least Vivian's question.
Right. Well, I mean, are you guys all right if we just read through these now? Because I imagine that something's going to come up here if we read them.
Great.
How long? What, 2 minutes to read through?
Yeah, we'll give you, how about a minute and a half to read through these, and then we'll take feedback.
David, did you want to chime in on that?
Well, I just read through them and I had a comment, but I can wait till everyone else has had a chance to read.
Let's do a minute and a half here and just see, because I've not read through them in order.
I'm starting my stopwatch now.
I see it. It's like people have read through, judging by faces.
Great.
David, what would you like to say about this?
Yeah, so I'm going back to the previous comment on the previous slide. I would say in item 3 at least, focusing on transit convenience, accessibility, and the promotes transit convenience and accessibility and benefits vulnerable communities. Convenience, I mean, if we don't make it convenient for people to ride the bus, no matter what we do to reduce emissions of the buses themselves, will have no impact on our local emissions.
Here, here. Heidi?
So I was just going to say that it seems like we could have a principle that was about marketing or promoting for increased ridership. I mean, that's underlying to our ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as a transit authority. So it feels like we need a principle that's about either, trying to think what we could do tactically is marketing or promoting. I know that we've been working on this for decades, but I think we might want to double down on increasing ridership.
Great. And I felt like 9 was an awkward number for guiding principles. So if we can get to 10, that seems great.
It is kind of the one principle that unites all the principles, because none of it works without that. Anybody else? Vivian, did you? I mean, I'm skipping you just in case.
Yeah, I can chime in with Heidi. I think it's good to have, I don't know how to put this delicately. These things are all really great, but none of them say there's stuff about meeting needs and priorities, and there's some about transparency, but there's nothing about enlisting community or writers in the project.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see we could do that, Vivian? Do you have any
Well, maybe a principle
there?
could be engage the community in the process.
Yeah, that's a great one to include, and something that's written into our process and already happening with the survey. We've collected 3 responses so far since it was launched yesterday. So we can call that out as a guiding principle.
Yeah. Great. Oh, Greg's back.
Oh yeah, always something to say.
Good.
I like number 4 a lot. The balance established transit climate action strategy, the willingness to explore innovative technologies and practices. What I've been trying to do as I've been reading through this is, what are some of the initiatives that we could do? And I think about something like, micro transit to create more routes and everything. And I see that as fitting into 4, but not really. I guess maybe not explicitly enough. In general, I find these principles so loose that anything we want to do can fit into them, in my first read through. So I guess as we, I don't know, that's not a very helpful comment. It's great to have to build this framework. I guess I might have more contributions later, but that's just my general thing. I'm trying to get specific strategies into this, and it's so loose that I could fit anything in there right now.
Sure. And one thing that we didn't go over in our presentation that maybe would have been helpful for this conversation is for the full climate action plan. What will happen later in the process is we'll develop a set of goals, strategies, and specific actions that will really move JTA towards implementation. So it'll be like the roadmap that says, okay, what needs to happen next? What should we plan for in 10 years? And these guiding principles are really like the values or just kind of the overarching principles that should guide the real meat of the climate action plan.
Well, I supported whatever everyone else said, and that's a good explanation for me. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Convenience is something that we need to achieve. I think David is right there.
Yeah.
And convenience, of course, means scheduling as well. I don't know if we want to call that out here, or as you say, goals and objectives, but I think that's the biggest barrier to our service being, adopted as real transportation throughout the county is the service center.
Great.
And I would just maybe add that, with convenience, I think side by side it goes with reliability. And I guess it's kind of hinted at here, but I don't see that specific word. So
great.
Be interested to see that as well.
Where's my bus would make a nice number 10 as well.
Right. It's a specific, not a principle, but yeah.
Great. Well, we'll update the vision and guiding principles after our meeting with the project team next week. And then we'll work with Nicole to make sure that you all get the chance to see the updated draft once it's ready. And with that, we can open it up to any other questions about the first half of the presentation for maybe just a couple minutes before we hand it off.
Vivian?
So thank you. My question was about the key leaders. How much outreach is there for this? How many people are being involved in this? Who is considered a community leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're working on identifying who we are going to engage through those interviews. We are creating a draft list of stakeholders in that engagement plan. And I might punt it to Kat to mention a few of the folks who are on that stakeholder list if that's not putting her too much on the spot. So the interviews will be one way to engage folks. The focus groups will be another way to engage both community members and folks who are kind of more invested in certain topics and specific topics around the climate action plan. And then the open house and the survey will be our ways to engage the broader community. Kat, can I pass it off to you to name a few of the stakeholders that we've identified already?
Yeah. Vivian, were you asking about, I said community leaders when I was talking about the interviews, or you asked like, and there's also community groups.
Right.
In terms of leaders, like I guess that's a designation that we're using for people who are on the project team who are not JTA staff. So that would be Cindy Jane as our representative from the Climate Action Committee, and then Commissioner Dean. I spoke to both of them. We're labeling them as community leaders since they're not JTA staff. In terms of community groups, off the top of my head, I know JTA staff has left us some feedback on this as well for our engagement plan. So just Jefferson Healthcare, the school districts, and
JPUD Local 2020.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Did you want engagement plan?
Yeah, we have a good list of stakeholders going. We haven't actually addressed the latest feedback from the project team on the engagement plan, so they've helped us build out the stakeholder list a bit, and we can provide that to you all if you're interested to see who we've identified so far and where there might be some gaps of folks to engage.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay, great. We'll make a note to pass that along.
All right, Greg, you're back up.
Yes, thanks. The slide where you start to show some of the facts was really, packed with information. I guess seeing the 0.62% of Jefferson County transportation emissions that are the kind of the JTA's contribution. I would love to understand, again, one trick pony right now on ridership. What the average single car, what's an average standard that we can use as a metric for getting someone out of a single occupancy vehicle into a transit ride. So some kind of average of, what's the median distance traveled to work or whatever. I'm not sure. I know it's a complicated little stat, but it would just be great. I'm not expecting you to have it now, but as we drill down into this more, to understand what would be the impact of getting one person out of their car and into the bus for their commute, just as we're trying to measure this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we're working on calculating right now. And we would like to include that. We know it's a really critical piece of information to include in our greenhouse gas inventory report.
Then I have a question. We're working off 2022 numbers here, and I'm just kind of curious if staff know of anything else that's changed besides the fact that we have one of those vehicles now is an electric bus. Is there anything else that's changed from 2022 to now? I mean, we didn't have anything else. We haven't taken off any routes, or we've slightly added a couple routes, but it shouldn't change much, right?
Right. So we did have our service additions in June of 2023. So that would add, a little bit to those numbers. But other than maybe some employees purchasing electric vehicles, so commuting to and from work with electric vehicles, that might change it ever so slightly.
Right.
But I think it'll be interesting to use 2022 numbers. And then as we go forward, as we start incorporating more electric vehicles into our fleet, really kind of looking to see how that changes. But again, I think
it's a useful baseline because
right.
I have no electric vehicles. Yeah,
exactly.
And then I'm curious, just talking about metrics as we were with Greg's question, the impact of switching from one diesel bus to one electric bus would be an interesting metric for us to gather. I mean, I'm sure it'll affect the percentages in that pie chart, but I'm curious if there's like a metric that kind of shows that difference. So as we are, because we have to talked to our tax base here about the vehicles that cost upwards of 3 times what the diesel buses cost. So we have to kind of rationalize that a little bit here. So it's kind of nice to have some numbers to go with that.
And I'm not necessarily sure that right now will paint a very good story. Our electric bus isn't the same as our diesel bus. So right now our biodiesel buses can do a lot more than our electric buses. So that might not be something that we lead off with. And
Sure.
But
we should be honest, at least, whatever it is.
Right. So when Jefferson Transit starts to work on inductive charging down at Haynes Place, that's going to lengthen the amount of time that we can keep that bus out. But right now it doesn't paint a great story because again, we're having to pull that bus back to Four Corners to be
Those
charged.
extra miles on it just for okay. Great. I think we're ready for the second part.
So do we have any more questions for Peak?
Should I open it up to public? I thought there was more coming. Sorry. That was the end.
That's
That was
all
the end
for
of
today from us.
Okay, all for today.
Thank you
Sorry,
for listening.
sorry about that. Gotcha. It's the second part's coming in the future. Got you. Any more questions from the board? First of all, you would already have your hands up if you did. Oh, Miranda's got some.
I'm just gonna push the survey. It's on the website.
Yes.
And just encourage people to go on and take it. There's different options on how to submit your responses. I think we're going to be doing some mailers. Don't quote me on that, but I think that there's different methods of submitting responses. So public can call into Jefferson Transit as well and get more information, but please fill out the survey.
I did send an email yesterday to the board and to TAG with that link included. So it would be great to fill it out and then
we'll test it out. Yeah.
Help us spread the word.
Great. Excellent. Anybody from the public have any comment here? Looking at I see Scott Walker, I assume. You got, there you go.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, a couple comments on the plan I just presented to you. One is that don't forget your long range plan has some thoughts in there on climate addressing, and that ultimately transit is the key to reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the entire community. And as someone mentioned, you could lower the transit's emissions by going all electric and wouldn't do us much good if no one was riding the bus.
Right.
And key to this is that the board members need to take back to their respective organizations that they need to change the policies to no longer subsidize driving, particularly with free and ubiquitous parking, blah, blah, blah. You've heard me say this for years. In the vision statement, I just thought you should change natural choice to essential choice, or at least consider that. And one of the principles you have economy, and I think that better explanation would be economic vitality. And on the stakeholder list, there's just one organization I think that's missing, and that's the Transportation Lab. Thank you. And lastly, I want to invite the consultants to join us on Friday for the conference we're holding at the American Legion, the one-day conference on transportation, and it's an intersection with climate and everything else. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Scott. As far as that feedback, does any board member want to weigh in on whether they'd like to see that as well with Scott's suggestions?
Those seem like reasonable suggestions to throw into the mix. I'd have to see the options out in front of me, but they seem like good suggestions to consider. Sure.
My take on the word natural, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah or Kat, but I figured you were trying to say convenience and the natural thing, meaning like it wasn't extra effort in one's day. But so I kind of read that maybe slightly different than Scott was reading it. anyway, I think it's good feedback. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah and Kat. And when will we be seeing you next?
We haven't settled on exactly which meeting, but I'd say in a couple months, right, Nicole?
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Well, thank you so much,
Excellent.
everybody, for listening and for your feedback. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Great. Thank you. And we'll try to get that survey out into the world.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got new order of business. Resolution 2403, capital grant agreement for the STBG grant. And who is talking on this one?
Jamie, do you want to take this one away?
Jamie.
I am happy to do that. So this resolution is just asking for authority for the board chair to sign and execute this grant agreement PTT 0808 that is a result of a surface transportation block grant that was applied for a couple years ago through the county and granted through federal highways. That the funds then had to be flexed over to FTA and then trickle down to WashDOT. So we have a grant agreement, and this grant will assist us in purchasing or getting on order our third electric bus, since we have our second one on order through our green transportation grant. So this will pay for a portion of a third electric bus.
Did anybody have any questions or opinions on this?
Great work. That's cheaper than a normal bus now.
I was gonna say, sorry.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll make a motion. Do you want a motion? I'm sorry.
Hit me with a motion.
I just got a touching email. So,
Oh, okay.
let's see. I can't. Oh, where's the number?
2403.
Thank you. I'm happy to move that we approve resolution 24-03 authorizing purchase of an electric Gillig bus. Another one.
Second that.
I haven't opened it up to public comment yet, so
And
nobody else, go ahead.
Councilman Thomas, typically we only do the public comment at the start of the meeting and at the end of the meeting.
Sorry. Okay. I'm getting so confused with the different meetings, so that would be handy. It was good to get Scott's input on that last one, but yeah, I will skip that step now. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll call a vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Nay. All right, unanimously passed. Okay, so we're on to item C, resolution 2404, authorizing Gillig PO, electric bus purchase. I haven't opened up this one yet, so I'm not sure who's presenting this.
Jamie, this flows so nicely.
Yes, I was. So, oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Faber, did you have something before we?
I just realized Heidi's motion was the right resolution number, but then she mentioned in the motion the purchase of the electric bus.
Oh,
I want to go
I
back
wasn't even
and read
listening.
the motion.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
sorry. I was reading the wrong page.
Yeah, it's easy to do. I didn't realize until just now when you said this. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, gotcha. Hey, Heidi, do you want another crack at that?
Why doesn't someone else take another crack at it? I'm in a
David's
We
ready.
can let that motion go unless there's some problems with buying a bus too, right? I mean, it's what we're on now.
Well, I'll move to approve resolution 24-03, capital grant agreement, STBG grant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, now I will make a motion to pass resolution 24-04 to purchase a Gillig electric bus.
I'll second that.
That's what you wanted to do the whole time.
That's what I was looking at. Sorry.
Great. Any other discussion on this topic? Oh, we don't even. Do we want to? Does staff want to weigh in more? Because I think we just jumped right past that part.
I'm not sure how much more there is to say.
I mean, we kind of know what's going on here.
Right. So I think we've covered it.
How different is this electric bus going to be from the one that we already have?
It will have the newer style battery packs on it that gets us a little extra range versus our current electric bus that we have, and I believe it'll have the battery preheaters that are going to also help extend battery life when it's cold out. So we don't have to spend so much battery power warming up the batteries.
Is there something on it that indicates it's electric? Is there going to be any way for people to tell it's an electric bus?
Aside from the fact that they are, when you see ours out on the road, you will notice that it is probably a good 2 feet taller than our normal bus. So they've got huge white pontoons along the top that are indicative, but they also do say, I think, plug-in electric, or they've got a little plug with a zero emission sticker that comes with it. Yeah, so it does signify that it is a zero emission bus.
Great.
Good. Vivian, you're looking for a lightning bolt on the side.
I suggested lightning bolts. I think that's a great idea.
Better than flames, I guess. I'm wondering. Do we get to program or choose don't electric vehicles now have to have a sound that they make when they're going at low speeds to alert pedestrians? Can we free fare whispering?
I'm not sure that Gillig has that many options, but if that comes up in our pre-build meeting, I'll be sure to tell them to hold off before we get your input on it.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
It would probably need to say zero fare though.
Never going to stop, Nicole. I'm still pushing it.
Okay, great. So, sorry, did I call the vote already? I think I was waiting.
No, you
Did we already
didn't
do
yet.
the vote? I didn't yet. Okay. I'll call the vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Great. Now we are on to item D, Resolution 2405, authorizing third maintenance bay construction with Barker Creek Consulting.
So we are really excited to have identified a contractor to help us with the construction of the third maintenance bay. We put out an RFP. Yes, we put out an RFP, Jamie's shaking her head, and we selected Barker Creek Consulting. So we are just asking for authorization for me to sign a contract with them so that we can move forward with the construction of our third maintenance bay.
Anybody have thoughts on this? David?
Yeah, I'm overjoyed to see we're doing this. If I recall correctly, this is one of the sort of long-term preconditions for us to move towards additional capacity in terms of number of routes and frequency of routes, right? So we could have enough buses to be serviced, or enough bays to service the buses and all that.
Yes. So when the building was originally constructed, it had 3 bays. We had to scale back due to budgetary constraints. So this is adding on that third additional bay. It will also help maintenance staff be able to work on projects that might take a little bit longer. Right now with just the 2 bays, if one bay has a vehicle that has been torn apart, if you will, it can make it tricky to get other vehicles in there for service. So we were taking into consideration our electric vehicles when constructing this third bay. So there will be some parts of it that will make it easier to work on electric vehicles in that bay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
John?
Nicole just answered my question, which was about the capacity to be able to work on electric buses, whether that would enhance that or not. Thank you.
Right. And does that change some of your schematics for where you do the bus washing? Does that move or something? Because wasn't that being done around that side of the building? No.
No, the bus washing will stay in its current area. If we do ever move the bus washing, that will be a few years down the way. But right now, bus washing will stay where it's at.
Great. Greg?
Yeah, thanks. This is really exciting, as David says. And as I read it, it looks like they're going to act as the general contractor basically and work with the subs. So I'm sorry, I forgot, but we already have the A&E done and everything. It's ready to go. So this is kind of the last bit, and they're going to do all the subcontracting as well.
Yes.
That's great. Really exciting.
Great. Greg, are you excited enough to make a motion?
I am. I will move that we approve. Sorry, let me get back to the top of it. That we approve resolution 24-05, authorizing the general manager to sign 2024-04 Barker Creek contract for construction management services.
Second that.
John seconded. All right. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Excellent. Read the next one. All right, now we're on to item E, Resolution 24-06, adopt amended travel policy.
I'll take this one. So the next two, 2406 and 2407, are part of our, as part of Jefferson Transit's 2024 work plan. We are systematically going through all of our policies, reviewing and updating and kind of reformatting some of our policies. Some of them are very old and need an update. In the travel and travel reimbursement policy, we went through and updated our language and added clarifying language for things like the meal reimbursement periods, prioritizing use of agency vehicles over personal vehicles. So really clarifying the reimbursement policy to be consistent with state and federal laws. And ensure the responsible use of taxpayer dollars when we are doing our agency travel. So the request is to approve the amendments to the travel and travel reimbursement policy.
Great. Anybody have thoughts on this? Greg?
Thoughts on everything. And this actually highlighted an argument I had with my daughter this weekend. I'm not sure if I'm actually suggesting a change, but I would contend that the first meal that you eat every day is breakfast, no matter if you eat it during work hours or before work.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is breaking the fast.
But, seeing her eat at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, that is breakfast, So I just want to put my flag in there, but I'm okay with the policy as written.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll move to approve resolution 2406 to adopt amendments to the travel and travel reimbursement policy.
Second that.
Right. Okay. If there's no further comment, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. I'll get to the next one.
Okay. So
okay.
Yeah, I'll just dive right into the next one.
Go ahead. All right.
So for the purchasing policy, we made some minor changes. The main one being updates to the delegation of authority, and that defines which JTA employees are authorized to purchase or issue purchase orders for supplies, materials, and services. So we went through and updated. I think it had specific positions before. There had been some changes to position titles. So we went and updated that section and reformatted it to be consistent with the rest of our policies. So the request is to approve the amendments to our purchasing policy.
Anybody have any thoughts on this one?
I have a question about it.
Okay, Vivian.
I saw maintenance got removed. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So, as a carryover, they are not authorized to actually sign off on purchases. The maintenance manager and maintenance clerk are. So those invoices get submitted through the manager or the maintenance clerk. So we were just updating that they fall within the maintenance department. So the facilities and maintenance department. So Desiree would actually sign off on those purchases.
Thanks. I move to approve that resolution.
I'll second.
Great. If there's no further comment, then let's call a vote. All in favor? Oh wait, Desiree's got something to say here. Probably important.
I
topic.
do. Just a question on who is able to purchase. Doesn't this fall under small purchases?
Yeah, this is the micro purchases under 10,000.
Right, and our facility maintenance and our mechanics do go down to the local hardware stores. And
Right, but that's not what this is addressing.
that's not what this is.
No,
Okay,
this is
'cause I
signing
hadn't-
off on purchases.
It's
So
just
they
signing off
still
on
have to
them.
go through you as a department head. So you can still delegate them to go down and purchase these things, not that you have to physically go and do that.
All right, I was just
Yeah, I'm not
checking on
changing
that
your
one.
workflow.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. That answers it.
Great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. So, okay, now we're back to climate talk. Discussion RE Climate Commitment Act.
So
Nicole.
I'll take this one. I included a report in the packet, which I hope you had the opportunity to read. I wanted to bring up and discuss a little bit about the Climate Commitment Act and the Move Ahead Washington Act. I know that most of you are familiar with the Climate Commitment Act and the Move Ahead Washington Act that was really the driving force behind some of the recent funding that transit agencies around the state have received. The Climate Commitment Act, I won't go through all of this because I think the report really lays it out what the difference between the Climate Commitment Act is and the Move Ahead Washington legislation. But the Climate Commitment Act really developed a cap and invest program. And the Move Ahead Washington legislation was able to take those funds and allocate a lot of it to things like public transit, safe routes to school, fish barrier removals, a lot of larger scale projects. Move Ahead Washington legislation was really a big step for transit agencies across the state. It allocated more funds to transit agencies than legislation had in the past. So it was really exciting for transit agencies. One of I think the key takeaways for transit agencies with the Move Ahead Washington money was youth ride free. And that required all transit agencies across the state to provide free rides for youth, anyone 18 years of age and younger. And a lot of agencies were able to do this because they were receiving grants called the transit support grants. Those transit support grants were issued to transit agencies through a calculation of sorts, but agencies have full control over how they use these funds. A lot of our larger agencies around the state use those transit support grants to offset the costs that they were losing due to not collecting fares for youth. If you'll remember, in 2022, Jefferson Transit officially went fare free, but we also included a portion in that policy outlining that youth were also able to ride free. And that's what enables us to collect the transit support grant from the Move Ahead Washington legislation. So again, I've outlined a little bit about the benefits to Jefferson Transit. To date, we have received approximately 2.5 million in Move Ahead Washington funds. We are slated for another 2.5 million between 2025 and 2027. Earlier this year, Initiative 2117 was talked about at the legislative level. This initiative received the number of signatures that it needed, and it will be on the ballot in November. And what that initiative is wanting to do is repeal the state's right to implement a cap and trade or cap and tax program. I'm bringing this up because I think it's important for the board to just be aware of this initiative. When it goes to vote, a yes vote would support prohibiting any state agency from implementing a cap and trade or cap and tax program. A no vote would opposes prohibiting the cap and trade and cap and tax program. A transit agency, we don't tell people how to vote, but we do provide information. And that's what we're doing here is just letting the board know that some of the funding that Jefferson Transit has received may go away if Initiative 2117 passes in November. Governor Inslee in January of 2024, he asked that all agencies that are receiving CCA money brand or put a logo to identify that service, the vehicles, however we're using or agencies are using the Climate Commitment Act money, to make sure that we are pretty clear that that's how we're using those funds. So on our website, you'll have seen the Climate Commitment Act logo. And again, Jefferson Transit decided to use those funds to offset our operating costs. And that allows us to free up additional money to be used for other types of projects, for capital projects, that kind of thing. So I don't want to take a lot of time. I know that you had the chance to read the report, but I do think it's worth bringing up that as November approaches, we'll be hearing more about Initiative 2117. The Washington State Transit Association is working with a marketing firm to help coordinate an educational campaign on this issue. So you may, be on the lookout for that. And when more information is available, I'm happy to provide the board with updates on Initiative 2117.
Great. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I'll just note that Nicole said fare free twice in that excellent presentation. It's I know it slips off the tongue.
It rolls right off. It rolls right off.
I guess I do have a question on how, like, when you kind of laying out your work plan for the rest of the year, not knowing whether this is going to be, if 2117 is going to be passed or not. Are there any decisions you're waiting on until after voting time, or is there anything they were pausing on, so we don't have to backtrack?
We will not have to backtrack. And as the board knows, we did not, there were some agencies that used these funds to institute a new service. Jefferson Transit, due to staffing levels, that's not a direction we went. We're not able at this point to add additional service on the road. But a good example is in the governor's budget, Jefferson Transit was issued another $1 million for an additional electric bus. Originally, when we had applied for the green transportation grant, we asked for 2 electric buses. We were awarded 1, or funds for 1. So we have been awarded funds for that second electric bus, which we would receive those funds, or those funds would be available in January of 2025. But that's something that we might not be able to order that bus using that grant, because those funds would go away at that point. So the transit support grants would go away. Some of the plus up for our special needs transportation formula funds would be reduced approximately 55%. You know, I think across the state is where you'll also see some more of those rollbacks. So not only here, but you know, a lot of agencies are depending on those transit support grants to be able to offer the youth ride free. You know, there are some agencies that we're really counting on that money to sustain service. So they're not necessarily in the same position that we are. So we'll be watching that closely.
Great. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? Great. Well, thanks, Nicole. And looks like we're on to your item H.
Okay, I'll keep this quick. I know we're running right out of time.
Yeah.
I did want to just bring up to the board a project that Jefferson Transit staff has been working on with Jefferson County. In 2014, the county approached Jefferson Transit because they wanted an easement on the front of our property, the property that faces Four Corners, for the Olympic Discovery Trail. Jefferson Transit signed an easement with the county. As most of you know, we do have a path that runs around the building, but also directly in front of the building. We've been working with the county probably for the last 5 or so months about formalizing the area where the Olympic Discovery Trail will run along 63 Four Corners and on our property 111, which is where our facility building will be going. The county has made an offer for that easement on the property 111. That's something that we're working with them on doing. We will need to sign some paperwork, so we'll be bringing that before the board in June to finalize that. But I mean, that's a conversation that we've been having. I think we're, you know, I won't speak for the board, but I think this is a direction that, you know, we're wanting to go. The county is definitely looking at, you know, how can we make connections with the Larry Scott, the Olympic Discovery. But this is just something I wanted to just preface that this will be coming in the June meeting, where we'll be looking at formally, you know, signing some paperwork allowing the county to construct the trail along Jefferson Transit property.
Great. That's thumbs up from Heidi, of course, with the county.
So exciting. No, the
Yeah.
ODT expansion is one of the things that puts me in a good mood these days.
Yeah.
Very good. We will also be setting aside some funds for the construction of that trail. Originally, when we had made agreements with the county, we had talked about, you know, Jefferson Transit constructing the trail. We're working with the county to include the construction of the trail with their contracts so that, you know, Jefferson Transit staff, who's really good at managing a transit agency, doesn't have to manage a trail. So we're working with them on that, but we will need to be doing a capital budget adjustment so that we account for those funds that we need to set aside for the construction of the trail.
Great. Well, so, you know, we are kind of at the end of what we normally do for the meeting, or we'd like to do. It's not what we normally do because we hardly ever catch it at 3 o'clock. But since you're all warmed up, Nicole, it's time for the general manager's report.
Okay. If it's fine with the board, what we've done this year or this board meeting is we've submitted our board reports in advance. And I would love maybe not to start with the general manager report. I think the information I've provided is pretty straightforward, but I would love for you to hear from our maintenance and our operations team, if that works for the board.
Sure.
Okay.
Does for me. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. It's in operations.
Guess that's me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Very good. So I'll start out with a staffing update. For a hot minute, I was super excited that we were fully staffed.
So I'm just going to go with that. So fully staffed with transit operators for the east side operations. We hired a third transit operator for Jefferson Transit Olympic Connection, and he will begin his CDL training with Gary probably the first part of May. We hired a second field supervisor. That's a position that was open for a long time. David Jorgensen moved up the ranks. He was promoted from driver to field supervisor, and he's a very, very excited and good member of this team. So for operations updates, Sarah Peck and I attended the Jefferson County Human Service Collaborators Meetup that was held in Port Hadlock on March 27th. We were there. We were interested in listening and finding ways that Jefferson Transit can help connect the community to the many services that are available in Jefferson County. I connected with Patricia. I'm just going to say what they are because I'm not good at their names. The Executive Director of Jefferson County Food Banks, Program Director for OWL 360 and the Nest, and a couple fellows from career coaches with WorkSource. Sarah and I also attended the Washington State Transit Association Operations Committee that was held in Bellingham. We are collaborating with Amanda Mulholland, Executive Director of Jefferson County Farmers Markets, and how to increase ridership and to the farmers markets. We are also assisting American Association of University of Women in prompting home and kitchen tour participants to utilize public transit for the event. We will be implementing a temporary bus stop at Lawrence and Quincy to allow people to take the bus and walk to some of the homes in that area, again, with the hopes of increasing ridership, getting Jefferson Transit out there. And AAUW, they've been fantastic. This is just a wonderful group. I'm excited to be working with them. Amy and Nicole attended a meet and greet with Port Townsend Main Street Program Executive Director Mari Mullen to find ways to connect the community members that participate in the Creative District summer offerings to Jefferson Transit Service. And we also, Nicole, the field supervisors, Jim and David and myself walked over to Kaitai to introduce ourselves to the new caretaker over there, Susan. I don't know if you guys have been by there, if you noticed the change, but it's pretty remarkable, the hard work that they're doing. So we wanted to show our support by going over there and letting them know that we're here if they need anything. Safety and training update, Gary will be training the new Jefferson JTalk transit operator and also another transit operator for over here. Riderships. Again, for February from 2019 to 2024, we had a negative 5.19% change. For March of 2019 to 2024, minus 8.76% change. In JTalk, Jefferson Transit Olympic Connection daily ridership averages in February of 2019 to 2024, still struggling, minus 35.13%. March, it was minus 38.04%. Kingston Express is going up. So in February from 2023 to 2024, it went up 81%. In March, it went up 50%. And I see those numbers increasing for this tourist season as the Kitsap Fast Ferry starts running on Saturdays. We're going to be meeting up with them again with our next bid pick. And that closes my report.
Speaking of the fast ferry, do you know when they start back up again?
On Saturdays, it will be, Sarah, was it Memorial, just right after Memorial, the holiday? We're trying to get our bid picks aligned with them so we can have more fluid service, and we're getting close, very close to it.
But I imagine people might ask us or you guys sometimes, is that ferry running? So
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What's the next report here?
That would be me. So in March, we welcomed a new dispatcher, Ronald Martin, and we're really happy he's on board with us. On March 1st, we switched over to our rider alert system, the new one, Simplified Transit. We're really excited about it. It has personalized alerts, notices, improved readability, and real-time updates. One of the reasons we chose it was so you would receive personal alerts and not have as many unwanted alerts for places the public aren't traveling. So it's a bit of a process to sign up for it. Just in the beginning, it takes a couple minutes. But I just wanted to let everyone know that if anybody does want to sign up for them and needs help with it, our customer service office is fantastic in helping with that. So they would be more than happy to, receive a call, help somebody sign up for it, and, get them on board for it. So it doesn't seem like a challenging process if they need it. And then Desiree and I went to the WISTIB Supervisor School in March. For community outreach, we attended the Salish Coast Elementary School Literacy Night on March 12th. There are all sorts of stations across the campus with various literacy-based activities. Cameron Quinn, the librarian at Salish Coast, invited Jefferson Transit, and this is the second year we've done a program with them. So we brought the trolley, invited students and families aboard, and they read transit-based books. We made a point-to-point schedule for the students and emphasized route connections from Port Townsend schools to nearby kid-friendly destinations. And Amy and I attended the WISTA Operations Committee meeting in Bellingham. We had an opportunity to interact with other operations managers from several transit agencies. It was a really great opportunity to talk to other agencies. We're looking into getting new paratransit software this year. So I was able to talk to some other staff at other agencies that have just procured it. So I got a lot of good information and some help with that. It was excellent. On March 18th, the Jefferson County Commissioners approved my request to become a board member on the Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Board. So thank you. And the Mobility Operations continues to be on various boards as listed. For ridership, average daily ridership saw an increase from January to February of 25%. And saw a 7% increase from February to March. And average daily ridership is up 86%, and March was up 65%. And that is all.
Great. Thank you. And fleet and facility.
That's me. Hello, everybody. Fleet update. Our new cutaway that we got for the Jefferson Transit Olympic Connection was received, and we put it into service back on March 14th of this year. So it's been out there replacing one of our other vehicles. It was greatly needed out there. And then on training and staff update, as Sarah said, we attended the supervisor school down in Olympia. The training classes discussed on how to have challenging conversations and ways of dealing with staff. And also organizing and leading the teams, becoming a supervisor in our fields. On March 26th and 28th, myself and one of my mechanics, Michael Norman, attended the Fleet and Facility Maintenance Manager and committee meetings and forum down in Kennewick, Washington. This was a very interesting meeting. It's where all the fleet and facility maintenance managers get together and discuss what's going on with their different agencies. And then also there's a lot of vendors there in the transit world. And then the vendors give a lot of presentations also. Some of the topics that were covered during the meeting were asset management, apprenticeship programs. Many agencies have apprenticeship programs to try to keep people interested and get them interested in the trades, which is very important, trying to get more mechanics out there for heavy buses. Creating interest in the trades was another one, not just for mechanics, but also fleet and not just fleet, but also facilities. A lot of that is short in those trades. They talked about indoor air quality and improving that in new builds or existing builds with different filtration systems and different air exchangers and going to a higher MERV setting in your filters. And then also they discussed the future of hydrogen as a fuel and the challenges of either producing or supplying, getting supplies, or even being your own fuel type station, and what it would take to be able to have hydrogen vehicles and supply your own fuel. Do you want me to continue before answering questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, sorry, Greg, I didn't see you there.
Yeah, I know we're late. I'm just wondering, Desiree, and when they're talking about hydrogen fuel, did they talk about the work that is going on in the I-5 corridor and under the peninsula with the, hydrogen fuel compression that's going into Clallam County? Or was it more-
They didn't cover Clallam. Clallam wasn't a presenter, so they didn't cover that. They were mostly covering what ways you can get hydrogen fuel if you decide to go that way, either being a producer and different ways of being a producer. And a lot of it was supply right now, what's available for supply. They had trucks that they could bring in and drop, so they were just exchanging tanks. If you wanted to have your own hydrogen fueling station, not being a producer, just have it trucked in and put into your tanks like we do our regular fuel, the amount of infrastructure you would need and the amount of space you would need was mostly, a lot of it was on gearing up for being able to support your vehicles if you did have hydrogen. So they didn't really go into a lot on where they were going right now. So
Thanks.
long answer to your to your question there. So again, the forum had some great vendor presentations. They did present on mirrorless camera and display system on transit buses. Those would replace your traditional mirrors and take away a lot of your blind spots that you have in front of your vehicles and on the side. Those were very interesting to see. Also on the battery electric and other alternative fuel vehicles, again, the hydrogen, sorry, just totally lost my train of thought. And where we're going with the batteries and being able to get a little bit more range out of batteries, new battery technology a little bit. And also on, let's see, and then the inductive charging and how that can help extend your day of having your vehicle out. Like what Nicole was talking about, having it down at the park and ride. If we have a faster charger on there, it could almost be a 1-to-1 bus replacement rather than a 1-to-2, like what we're kind of looking at right now with our range. So we might be able to have an electric bus out there all day long. We don't know. We'll move there. And then some of the different ADA securement systems that are out and available to have on your vehicles. So it was very interesting. And of course, the different dealers were there with their vehicles, your different battery electric vehicles, which ones are coming down the pike, which ones are available now, and then also your regular combustion engine vehicles also. And that ends my presentation.
Great, thanks to the presentations. Now I see Debbie Youngke has slid over to panelists here and turned on her camera. Are you ready to give a tag report?
Hi, Debbie Youngke. Tag. I managed to inadvertently remove myself from the panelist. So I've been here all along, but I've just been hiding in the background until they discovered me and re-promoted me, and I'm leaving the button alone. Our report is in the packet, as are the minutes for our meeting. We're working on public outreach and engagement for 2024. Staff is also reaching out to the West End to see if we can have more interaction with the J-Talk writers. I want to encourage everyone who is able to attend the conference on Friday And I just have a question. I want to make sure we're getting ready to start tabling, and I want to make sure I understand it about Initiative 2117. Are we allowed to endorse a vote for that, or do we just provide information? So we can't take a.
No, we absolutely cannot endorse. We cannot try to sway anyone. All we do is provide information. And, I think it would actually be worthwhile not to spend our time talking about 2117, but instead talking about all of the ways that Jefferson Transit can help you move about our community. So yeah, I would steer clear of that.
And if someone asks the question, do we send them to you?
I'll get back to you on that, because we do have to be careful. That's an area.
That's why I'm asking the question.
I won't try to sway them. I would probably refer them to a different website where they could gather information.
Okay. So if someone asks the question, we just give them a website and say, please look here, period.
Yes, but I'll get back to you with a more eloquent answer in how to direct them. I just don't have that information right now.
Because we're going to have opportunities to talk to the public before you all meet again. So I wanted to make sure we weren't doing anything that we shouldn't be doing in terms of promoting things. And that's all I have. We're working on attempting to get more people on the bus. If anyone has any questions from our report or minutes, please speak up.
Anybody?
I'll take a thumbs up. Thank you, Greg.
That was pretty good. Just real quickly, are you at the connectivity fair? Did I miss that? A bit of.
I believe Nicole is going to be there, and a couple others of us have offered to be with her. She has not yet approved our offer, but we will see. And we're going to be at farmers markets and various and sundry other places over the summer. So we'll see you there.
Excellent. Thank you for reaching out to the West End. I've been very curious about that too. So, especially with the declining numbers, or not bouncing back numbers, I should say. Okay, well, we've reached the end of our meetings. Anybody want to add anything? I know we're already 15 minutes, 17 minutes past, and I will have to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Recording stopped.
Exit session.